Welcome, everybody, back into the Crash Course podcast. My name is Craig Crash Collins, joined as always by Brandon Scott, otherwise known as B. Scott. A little bit different kind of atmosphere for the podcast. Typically, we've got everything kind of laid out for you. We've got, a little bit more structure to it. But tonight, we're just going to watch the Pacers and the Heat. Obviously, we're not going to be able to show the game. There's some legalities with that.
We don't have any lawyers.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, we would be representing ourselves in court. But we do want to. We were originally tonight was going to be a playoff preview, but since there's been a lot going on, and tonight is a pivotal matchup between the Heat and the Pacers. That's why you see that scoreboard over on the left-hand side of your screen. We're going to be watching the game, giving you our reaction, updating the score, letting you guys know what's going on. We're getting ready for tip-off. And B. Scott, I mean, even though the Pacers are usually regarded as, kind of the underdog and not really spoken about much by the mainstream, sports media, I mean, this Pacers team is scary good right now.
Yeah, a lot of people are noticing the Pacers because they have to, and not just because they're all in the same place, which is the biggest reason why, but mostly because of the play of TJ Warren. I mean, he's averaging 39 points, 36 points, something like that. He's only had one really kind of bad game. It was against the Phoenix Suns, where he only scored 16 points.
And the Phoenix Suns right now are showing that they're a little bit more of just an anomaly. Because you think, you look at that loss to the Suns and you're like, man, that's rough. But then,
and then to turn around a couple days later and beat the Lakers, and it wasn't like the Lakers were resting everybody. I mean, LeBron still scored 32 points. So this is definitely a team that everybody is looking out for. The Lakers game was a good gauge of where they currently stand. I think tonight is going to be even bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like right now, I mean, tonight is kind of a must-win. I feel like one, because you're only a game ahead of Philadelphia, and you're tied right now with Miami for the 4th spot. So you could easily see a swing here of the Pacers going potentially for the 4th spot and dropping all the way down to the 6th spot. And I don't think, if you're the Indiana Pacers, I don't think you really want that, because the Boston Celtics await for you at potentially 3, or the Toronto Raptors. Both of those teams are playing very well right now as well. I think you match up much better against the Miami Heat. It will be, I think the key storyline to look out for tonight is definitely going to be TJ Warren versus Jimmy Butler. This is one that both Warren and Butler have circled on the calendar after the last time these two teams met. I mean, they're showing the replay of the last time these two teams met right now, and they kind of got into a little bit of a scuffle, and Jimmy Butler called out TJ Warren, basically saying, "You're not even on my same level, blah, blah, blah." And now TJ Warren is playing like a man on fire. He is essentially taking the bubble by storm, and is probably one of the hottest players in the NBA currently. So one of the most clutch players right now as well. And the nice thing is, with this Indiana Pacers team, they're not just, there is no ego on this team. As somebody put, I forget who said it, but this has been one of the most fun teams to watch here the past week or so, because they're playing ego-free basketball. They're playing team-oriented basketball. They know they're working the ball movement's working very well for them. Right now, they know who the hot hand is each game, and they're looking to help that person get into position to score the most. I mean, and that's coming from Victor Oladipo. He's stepping up right now as a team leader, and he's averaging over 16 points a game on shooting about 46% from the field. And that's pretty good, considering he's still working to get his legs back underneath him, and he's getting more and more confident each week. I mean, you saw in the game against the Lakers, he played very well in that game. So this is a team that is clicking right now at the right time, and it's going to be very interesting to see if they can carry this chemistry and this momentum into the playoffs. Because if they can carry it into the playoffs, they're going to be a team that could make some noise. Obviously, tonight is a big gauge because this is most likely the team you're going to be playing in the first round of the playoffs. Whether you're the 4th seed or the 5th seed, this is who you're going to be playing. And obviously this year, it doesn't matter if you're the 4th seed or the 5th seed because there's no home court advantage.
Right.
To be honest. So no matter what, if you win the first round, your prize for winning the first round is a matchup against the Milwaukee Bucks. So essentially, it doesn't really matter if you get 4th or 5th, but obviously you want to have the momentum going into the playoffs. So if you can get up into the 4th seed, that works better in your favor, just momentum wise.
Yeah, these games honestly during the bubble have reminded me a lot of like conference tournaments in college basketball. That's kind of the atmosphere I get just because it's kind of, it's neutral court. And so, yeah, like you said, it doesn't really matter, but still, I mean, the fact that we were talking about, like, man, do the Pacers even, are they going to be the 3 or the 6 seed? Or are they going to end up having to play Boston and basically get a repeat of last year? And they're playing super great basketball without Sabonis, too. That's, that's a big, key to it as well, is that they have, they've had to play without Sabonis.
What's funny is that going into the bubble, there was a lot of off-season rumor articles pointing towards Miles Turner being dealt. All of a sudden now, with Sabonis not there, those talks have disappeared. Any talk you hear about the Celtics and needing a big man, none of those rumors consist of Miles Turner anymore. It's all Joel Embiid or Rudy Gobert or hey, I even saw one today for trading Kemba Walker and Gordon Hayward and Marcus Smart in a first-round pick to the Portland Trailblazers for Damian Lillard. So there's a lot of rumors going around, and none of them involve Miles Turner anymore. I don't know if it's because people are like, well, now the Pacers will keep him, or what it may be. I don't know.
Right.
But that was just kind of an interesting tidbit that I noticed.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. That's just basically been the conversation. Is especially because we talked about it when they drafted like Goga too. Is like it's too crowded, and now that you've got now a situation where you've had to play Turner more and that kind of thing. It's actually really benefited. I'm just still also speaking of things that you've seen. Did you see what the Phoenix Suns tweeted about T.J. Warren? About like they basically threw some shade at T.J. Warren because like as a team that's undefeated in the bubble, basically saying that. It's basically, throwing shade at TJ for the fact that they're still undefeated and they didn't need him to be undefeated. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah. Like, why? That means that just says to me that TJ Warren is making noise.
Yeah.
And for the fact that the Suns basically paid the Pacers to take him when the Pacers wanted him anyways.
Yeah.
And now they feel the need to come out and say, "Oh, you're still not that good. Look, we're winning all these games." Like, there's something there if you are having to go out on social media and say that.
Right.
There's it's kind of like when somebody tweets at their ex saying, "Look, I'm doing so great without you," but
yeah,
why are you still thinking about your ex?
Right. Something's not adding up here.
Something doesn't add up. I mean, you're doing so great without him. Why is their name in your mouth?
We got Austin Gemmel in the chat. He says T.J. Warren's about to light up the game tonight. It's gonna be fun to watch. Now, just a reminder as well. That we won't be actually watching the game. We'll be basically giving you our live reaction and breaking down the game as it happens, as opposed to, obviously cannot actually put the game on the YouTube channel. So, um,
You get
but
to watch us watch the game.
yeah, you basically.
You can tell I'm watching the game because I keep lighting up in various colors.
Basically, if you're watching the game, and you're like, man, I wish I had some people to watch the game with. Basically, just envision us. We're on your couch with you, watching the game, reacting to it, and letting you know our thoughts on the whole thing. Which, and I'm excited. I mean, I was not excited. Notably, very often I was not excited about the restart of play for the Pacers. I thought it was going to be a rough one, especially I was out here saying that Oladipo wasn't going to play because Sabonis wasn't going to play, and they've been playing really good basketball. And it's funny that these two teams kind of cross paths again in a kind of playoff. They're going to match up in a playoff series and are matching up in some kind of playoff atmospheres because of course going back to our days at Ball State, this was the rivalry, it was Pacers and Heat, and so now we kind of get a glimpse of that again.
Yeah, except it's very different now.
Right, obviously,
No,
a lot has
Wade, none of it.
A lot has changed, that's for sure. Alrighty.
Yeah, we better get our live sports in as much as we can now because I have a feeling it's going to be a very long time before we, this fall, it's going to be a rough one.
Of course, obviously, the news dropping today that the Big Ten is. Have they officially?
No official announcement yet. It's all people reporting.
I got you.
Official announcement they're saying it's supposed to come tomorrow, but I'll be interested to see how this all pans out with players moving, having that hashtag We Want to Play move.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because they don't have a players union, nor should they, and they're basically talking about how they want to play. And it's like, okay, well, it's almost kind of like the mask argument in a way, like. We're trying to protect you. This is why we're, and plus they're not paid too. Let's also remind that fact is that
if they want to play, then I think the schools need to figure out because what was really holding the hold off with the Big Ten is that there's a lot of schools that are doing the testing and the safety protocols the right way, and there's a few other schools that aren't willing to pay what they need to pay to get on the same level so they can all be on the same page as far as safety protocols and testing protocols go. So that's a little difficult. I mean, who are those? I want to know who are the programs that are like, we don't really want to pay because, well, we're not going to a bowl game or winning any games anyways. So, or who's protesting because they don't like the only conference games schedule. I'm looking right at you, Rutgers and Indiana. But hey, even you, Maryland, I'm looking right at you too. But it's just, it's like, you know what? If those teams don't want to go through the protocols, okay, fine. They can opt out of playing. But I feel like there's plenty of other teams that have the protocols in place that were not having positive tests galore. If they want to play, let them play.
Here's kind of the slippery slope is the fact that okay, so first of all, obviously, there are more than 53 men on a roster for college football. So what's the best way? Because I mean, you can't tell me that a team that wants to play is unanimously all, let's say it's 53 players, all 53 players, even though we know there's more. You can't tell me that it's a unanimous vote. So then what do you do about, but what do you do about, what if you take a vote and 60% are for playing? What do you do with the other 40%? Where are you going to
opt out?
Okay, but then where are you getting, the rest of that to fill out that roster?
Players all have had all the opportunity to opt out. They know that their scholarship is going to be kept. I'm not 100% certain about what eligibility looks like, how that all plays into effect. But you're seeing players opt out. I mean, and it's
Right.
not by the handfuls. It's players that are obviously going to be first round, second round picks. But even then, it was interesting today when you see that statement come out from Trevor Lawrence, basically saying, hey, you know what? If you cancel the football season, this is actually going, you say it's to protect us, but this is going to put a lot of guys in a tougher situation because football is like their safe haven. If there's no football, no school classes or anything, you're going to send them back home. Well, guess what? They're going to be more apt to possibly come down with COVID. And then if they come down with COVID, guess what? The school's not there to help them pay for it, like because there is special health insurance policies that these athletic departments have for their student athletes to cover medical expenses from you know athletic injuries and potentially catching. Schools were going to be covering if the student athlete caught COVID. Well, if you send them home and they catch it, guess what? Now that athlete's family, who may not have healthcare options, catches COVID, they're on the hook for it, and you just put their family in a tougher situation. So it's one of those things where you say you're trying to protect the athlete, but in turn, it may be setting them up in a position that's not as good for them. Some of them, football being on campus and having football gives them a regimented schedule. It keeps them out of trouble. They get home, they start getting around some influences that may get them into hot water
Or
or different things.
I
So
mean, if the football season's canceled, or like they just not gonna have classes, like they still have to go to class and be on campus, right?
I mean, a lot of who knows what schools are going to do. Who
Yeah.
knows? I mean, if they think it's bad enough that they can't have a football season, what's then going to, then it's like, well, you honestly think, okay, then if we can't have football, why are we going to bring all these kids back on campus? Do you honestly think they're going to not go to house parties and
Right.
wear masks all the time? No, I mean, it's
Right. But
going
I mean,
down a.
you even see though right now, like even in professional sports now, people are still going out even with a regimented schedule and with all those protocols in place though. Like people are still going to make bad decisions whether or not they're a football player or they're a regular student.
You are right about that, but you know, it's just one of those that there's so many different ways to look at it, and it's really tough. I think it's a really tough decision to make because one, I don't think they're going to ultimately cancel
Right.
football. I think if anything, they're gonna try to postpone it to the spring because college athletic programs can't, especially Power Five. It's canceling an entire season of football. Wow. I mean, you've already seen what Barry Alvarez said in a letter to their alumni group, season ticket holders, basically saying, we could be losing upwards of 100 million. Purdue has put out saying they could be losing upwards of 50 million if there's no football season, mostly because Purdue's done fairly well with managing some of their money here as of late with endowments. But it's going to be interesting to see how, if football ultimately gets canceled, how this shakes up the landscape of college athletics just in general. To me it's kind of interesting. Like my dad texted me and said, looks like no football. And I said, well, that could really affect college sports. I don't know how, that could be a bad thing. He goes, oh, I don't think so. I said, no football, no money, right. No sports. It's, when basically like if you get laid off from your job and you have all these other little things you have to pay for, guess what? They don't get paid for when you don't have any money coming in, essentially.
Well, Jake Buckman brings up a good point. The game has started. We're actually 9 minutes and we have 9 minutes and 3 seconds left to go in the first quarter. Heat lead 9-3. Jimmy Butler's knocked down a couple of free throws. So Heat off to a good start. They showed Sabonis as one of the virtual fans. That's pretty fun. And Jeremy Lamb. Which I think this is an awesome thing that they do, the virtual fans. Not to say that not that I didn't expect them to do stuff like this, but I think it's a cool thing that they've done.
Yeah. But no, TJ Warren's not off to a great start. He's over so far. The only person that actually hit a bucket has been Oladipo. There we go.
So something I've noted, I think I've said it a few times on the podcast, is that Eric Spoelstra, like, he's a coach that, I mean, I'm not like gonna go to bat for him and say he's a Hall of Famer or anything like that, but here's a guy who was brought in. It's kind of a Frank Vogel situation. Here's a guy who was brought in to be the coach of LeBron, and you think, okay, well, LeBron's the real coach. As Warren misses a shot there too. LeBron's the real coach. This is just gonna basically be a puppet. It doesn't matter. And Spoelstra's actually still there, and this is like years after LeBron left to go back to Cleveland. So, Eric Spoelstra is really turned out to be a very good coach in the NBA.
Yeah, I don't think Pat Riley was ever going to hire somebody that was just going to be a puppet for LeBron. He was going to hire somebody that understood LeBron, how to coach LeBron, and also for the future was just a good coach in general. I mean, I don't see him having. I'm not going to say he's going to sit here and say he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, he's nowhere near a Phil Jackson or a Pat Riley or even a Larry Brown. But he's definitely a coach, a solid coach. I mean, Miami went through some struggles after LeBron and Bosh left, but he's got them right back in the thick of things again. So far, I'm not very impressed with the Pacers' interior defense. Miles Turner is just letting Bam Adebayo do whatever he wants down low.
Yeah, the Heat, the Heat now up 11-5. They're just clicking on all cylinders right now, and the Heat. I mean, honestly, like, the East is gonna be fun to watch come playoff time. I think the East and West are fun to watch, but for different reasons. In the sense that, like, the West, I think, has better teams, but I think the East, like, yeah, the Bucks are really good, the Celtics are really good. The Raptors are, kind of a surprise team, but like I think it could be like, am I ready to say the Pacers are going to contend? No, but at the same time, like, I could foresee, there's about 5 different teams from the East possibly coming out of the East to be in the NBA Finals. No, I don't think they'll win. I think this is obviously, the winner of the NBA Finals is going to come out of LA, but
I don't know. The way both of those LA teams are playing right now.
Yeah,
I'm not 100% certain about that.
I think I need to see them do that in the playoffs. Like, because I feel like every time, every season there's there's talk about LeBron having issues or anything like that, and then it comes time to actually make it happen, and they end up making it happen. But it'll be fun to watch for sure.
Especially the Clippers right now.
Yeah, Clippers have kind of fallen off, which that's understandable.
You got too many stars in the West that are too busy trying to get on each other on Twitter. Like, just shut up and play basketball right now. If you're not winning, stop talking and just win. I mean, Portland with Damian Lillard. Really, did you have to get on Instagram and Twitter after you missed game-winning free throws? And Paul George, like, really, you don't have much to say right now because you're just trying to chase a ring and you're failing miserably. Speaking of which, there was a graphic that came out today or yesterday showing the odds of current bubble players to make the Hall of Fame. They have Paul George listed higher than Kyrie Irving. They have Paul George at a 66.4% chance of getting into the NBA Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Like, what has he done?
Right.
What is he? I mean, Kyrie was like 64%, but Kyrie at least won a championship.
Right.
I don't get what Paul George has done.
Not a whole lot. He's talked a lot of talk, but he has not actually done what that talk is warranted, because like that's the thing, like you talk about the whole like ex-girlfriend analogy earlier, and that's kind of how I feel about Paul George. Is I feel like his name keeps coming up. His name's coming.
Bringing up the Pacers.
Yeah, he keeps bringing up the Pacers, and it's like, dude, you've been now with the Thunder, you've been now with the Clippers, and yeah, it's not been a full season with the Clippers yet, but it's not like everything's going just amazingly well. Like, or as far as like, it's not like you've like really changed this team and put them in a better spot. Like, it's just kind of, yeah, it just Paul George is still trying to prove it, and this is a decade in now of him being kind of in the spotlight, on an NBA scale, like on a national NBA scale. So yeah, right now 11-6, Heat are on top. Pacers, I mean, are they playing great? No. Are they playing terrible? No. Obviously, still early in the game.
They're at the free throw line now. Like now, you got Miles Turner at the free throw line. He's missed something like 3 free throws. Let's see if he gets this one.
I think you may be ahead of me.
Yeah, I think I am. Sabonis with the long hair and the beard, looking like Craig.
Yeah, mine's still. They're interviewing Chad Buchanan still on my.
Well, I'm on the second time of seeing Sabonis.
Okay, here we go. Yeah. B Scott's just in a different time zone. It's fine. I'm also all for these jerseys that the Pacers are wearing being their main jerseys. Like, I'm all for.
Really? I'm not a fan of
You
these
don't.
city
You
jerseys.
don't like these city jerseys?
I really don't.
Why not?
They just kind of look. I don't know. They don't do anything for me. Like I get it, the Circle City, and then the checkered flags for the Indy 500.
It's supposed to be kind of like an old school like IndyCar like paint scheme. Like that's what it's supposed to like represent.
If you want to bring back something that's iconic, just bring back the FloJo.
See, what if these were the home jerseys, but the FloJos were the road jerseys?
Or bring back the old pinstripes from when we made the NBA Finals.
There you go. The pinstripes, like what I grew up watching the Pacers as.
Yeah, not
like,
the yellow ones.
Yeah.
No. Just the white and the blue.
Yeah. Yeah, the yellows were interesting. That's for sure. I don't know if I was a super big fan of those.
No, I do like the current yellow ones that they have.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the. I like last year's City Edition.
I'm trying to remember what that one was.
What I really like to see them do is bust out the hickories.
Yeah.
Here in the bubble. Man.
But I don't know, because I've seen this is the second time now, like, because they wore the city jerseys the other day, so I don't know how many different jersey styles they have.
Yeah, I don't know. Goodness gracious, TJ Warren. Not good.
This is probably not the question to ask here, but would the audio get us in trouble too?
Probably.
Okay, that's why I thought. That's why. That's why I haven't turned on like my speaker. I'm just watching it on my monitor like in silence. But I was like, I'm pretty sure it
I have
will.
it on TV, and the TV. I didn't even turn the sound bar on.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. This is the Pacers team we're used to seeing. Duds. I feel like the NBA could have done a lot better job with the coaches. Instead of giving them like the chintzy slap-on name tag stickers that say racial justice.
Yeah.
Like, couldn't you have given like put a patch on their shirts or something? Or no, it's a button. It looks like a button or a sticker.
Yeah. What it looks like is it looks like they're all at a meeting and they have like the hello, my name is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And not even everybody's wearing it. I'm
Yeah.
noticing. Well, so it looks like some of the trainers aren't wearing them, which I guess kind of makes sense. They don't. It looks like it's a big clunky thing.
So
You don't want it to get in the way.
maybe you can provide me some insight on this because I'm a little bit confused and I haven't really heard like an actual explanation on why this is. Are there 30 different courts or do they rotate the courts in for the bubble?
What do you mean 30 different? I'm pretty sure there's only like a handful of courts.
Right, that's what I'm asking because like every court, I expected it to be like the court is the court. There might be like 4 courts or whatever, but I didn't expect them to all be like tailored to whatever team is playing.
Oh, they're not tailored to that team.
Okay, maybe
They're not.
I got you. Well, because like
So I know sometimes you'll see the Pacers logo on there.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's digitally put on there.
Oh, gotcha.
That CNO Financial Group.
Okay.
That is digitally put on there.
Ah, okay.
Like tonight, you don't see the Pacers.
Right.
Thing.
Okay, that
Because
makes.
this is considered a home game for the Heat.
Right.
So Fox Sports Indiana is not going to put.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Oh, okay. That dude.
CNO Financial may. I don't know. Some of them look like they're.
I don't know who it was that just shot a 3. I mean, they probably shot a 3 5 minutes ago on your broadcast. But like, I hate that when they do the little like 3 and then they step in and try to draw. Like, I see that all the time at the.
Crowder.
Yeah, I see that all the time at the like high school level. Is they like take a 3 and then jump in like trying to draw the foul. It's like, come on, man, that's so weak. I mean, I guess if you get the call, great, but like, come on now. I feel like the Pacers have been at 7 points for like the last half hour. They've scored 1 point since the TV timeout that we took, because that's when we're going to update the score, is every TV timeout.
Sneak preview. You get to update it at the next TV timeout.
Yay! But yeah,
of course, they lead off the TV timeout with a commercial about the Indy 500.
Yeah, very
know
sad.
Your crowd. Not a good commercial to play.
Yeah. Not ideal. Yay! It's 19-9. All right, let's see here. Pacers score. Yeah, it's rough about the 500 this year. My wife and I had opted not to go to the 500 this year. Because we're not sure. Like, my nephew's birthday is going to be celebrated that same weekend, and we're still kind of unsure about what's happening with that. Obviously, there's not going to be like a big party like there normally is, but we decided not to go, but like we were like, because we had talked about how Penske had said there's absolutely no situation where we don't have where fans will push the race back. So it's crazy to see that they didn't even like not even like they delayed it to September 23rd, which is probably a weekday, but like September like it's weird they like they didn't even move it back one more month or something before you saw them immediately be like, yeah, we're doing it without fans.
Yeah, you're telling me I opted to keep my tickets, and we were all super excited to be going, and yeah. So I've now have used that credit for my tickets this year, and I got my tickets for next year.
There you go.
But still, I would rather be going this year.
Yes, I am with you. Now I will say this: I'm gonna take the stance I normally take on like games like this, and like I will say that I think the winner of this game loses the next game. I don't know when they're. I know there's a game against the Rockets in between, but
yeah, they play the Rockets on Wednesday, and then they play the Heat again on Friday or Saturday. Oh, Friday.
Yeah, so I think Friday is when like whoever wins this game will lose Friday because I don't think either team is gonna sweep. And if they do,
Oh, no.
it does not bode well for the postseason for either team, really.
All right, quick. Who's your favorite non-star Pacers player on the roster right now?
Okay, so the question would be the bigger
which
question.
is pretty much the entire. You could look at the entire roster.
Yeah, I was gonna say you like because that basically, in my opinion, excludes.
Or I guess who's your favorite sixth man?
Who's okay? Sixth man. Oh man, that's tough, dude. That is very tough. I mean,
I'll tell you mine. I'll tell you mine if you tell me yours.
I've always been a big Doug McDermott fan. Um, and then I was like, um, the Holiday brothers have been good. I don't know if I can pick like just one player.
That you enjoy watching. Just pick one that you enjoy watching.
Like I said, I mean, I like Doug McDermott. I think he brings a lot to the table. I enjoyed. I don't know if it's just his name, but I liked watching him when he was at Creighton too. So, yeah, he's fun to watch.
Dougie Buckets.
Yeah, Dougie McBuckets. He's the man.
Yeah. For me, this one's kind of out of left field, but T.J. McConnell.
Yeah.
I think outside of T.J. Warren, he was probably the biggest offseason pickup as a guy that we thought was never really going to see the courts. But this guy, I mean, he's a coach's son, and it shows. He is a coach on the court. I think he is one of the hardest working players on the team. And he just came into the game not too long ago, and he was already sweating. It looked like he was putting in quite a workout, potentially on the sidelines. They had him mic'd up in the last game against the Lakers, and he was phenomenal being mic'd up. This is a guy that I think he is a big glue piece for this team. And he's just fundamentally sound. He just makes hustle plays. He's one of those guys that he is going to bug the living crap out of you if he's guarding you or you having to guard him because He's just all over the court.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, you could go with pretty much anybody on the roster, and that's like, you know, that's what I was thinking about the other day. I mean, it's what you've seen from the Pacers throughout this time in the bubble as to why teams are content with, hey, sure, we don't have an Anthony Davis or Russell Westbrook or a James Harden or a Giannis, but we have a complete team. We have from top to bottom on the roster, we've got a solid foundation around us where, like, you're seeing a Lakers team right now struggle, and a lot of the things they brought up when, the Pacers were playing the Lakers the other day was that, like, oh, well, they don't have Avery Bradley. Well, this is a team that's got Anthony Davis and LeBron James on it, so why? I mean, yes, I understand.
Why do they really need an Avery?
Yeah,
Bradley?
why is losing Avery Bradley why does that mean the Lakers are now in trouble? Like, when they have LeBron James, and it's funny because then the response would be, well, those two guys can't play the whole game. Well, it's like, well, but those are the guys that like you got LeBron and AD because they were supposed to carry your team, and so now you're saying a third person not being there that's played well, means your team's like not playing well now, and it's like, well, I mean, it shows the value of actually building a roster.
Yeah.
It's funny, the game against the Lakers reminded me a lot of when the Colts played the Chiefs this past season, where, I heard a lot of the talk about Avery Bradley being out, and I was like, well, I mean, the Pacers also don't have Sabonis, so
they also don't have TJ Lamb.
Yeah, it's like
Jeremy Lamb.
Yeah, it's like
TJ. A lot of TJs.
Yeah.
On the team.
But yeah, it reminded me a lot of that because it was like, yeah, sure, the Colts or Patrick Mahomes got hurt, which was when he got hurt, it was like late in the game anyway. But then it was like, yeah, the Colts don't have their entire secondary, so like, what do you mean? It's like injuries happen all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Why is it that when the Lakers lose and they have one player injured, they can use that as an excuse, but no other fan I guess any LeBron team when they
it's whatever.
It's because we didn't have our eighth guy off the bench. He was injured tonight.
Yeah.
What?
Right.
And,
well, yeah.
Because he's so valuable to this team. You have the best player in the world. Why does that matter? It'd be different if LeBron didn't play. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe, yeah. We lost because we didn't have Avery Bradley and LeBron. Okay, that can make sense. That's two pieces. That's two important pieces. But just to say we didn't have Avery Bradley, that's why we lost to you.
Well, okay. we have reached the end, or I have finally reached the end of the first quarter. Pacers do come back. Last TV timeout it was 19-9 Heat. Now it's 23-19 Heat. So the Pacers have gone on a little bit of a run. At the end of the quarter,
TJ McConnell.
Yeah, and I think it's shown you that, like, I think that this team, like, it showed you that, like, hey, these are just two teams, battling it out. I think both teams are going to go on runs. I wasn't super worried when they were down, early. In the past, you might have been. You might have been like, oh, crap, they're down, big early. But they fought back, and now it's interesting. I mean, it's a relatively low scoring first quarter. I mean, or lower scoring. But it's going to be interesting. But yeah, if you're a team that's highly regarded, like the Lakers or like the Chiefs were last year, and you lose, when you were supposed to win, you're going to find whatever excuse you can to, like, say that you didn't just get outplayed. So you're going to say, hey, it was because Mahomes was hurt, or it's because we didn't have Avery Bradley, not mentioning, it's like when
I don't want to finish your thought, but I have some breaking news I want to put out there.
Yeah, okay. So I was just going to say, it's like, I think the argument was brought up again, like when UCF, like, almost beat LSU in, when they were talked about in the college football playoff, they brought up all the injuries, like, on, LSU side. It's like, well, yeah, but like every team has injuries. It's not just the team that was supposed to win. So yeah, I always think that's yes, that is important to note who's injured, but at the same time, it's like, well, but I mean, injuries happen. You still prepare for it. You still got outplayed, and that happens sometimes.
All right, so some breaking news, non-Pacers related. Breaking news from Tom Dienhart of goldenblackillustrated.com. Um, Several writers have spoken with head coaches and assistant coaches and different writers throughout the Big Ten. The Big Ten has heard the cries for wanting to play from players and are looking at now, instead of calling off the season, just delaying the season to a possible start date of September 26th, which is the same as the Pac-12 and the SEC. Potentially could be hearing confirmation on this tomorrow, but looking now more like a delayed start instead of a cancellation, and it's looking like it potentially could be true as schools are still planning to hold their team practices tomorrow. So that is some good news that, hey, the players had spoken, and the higher ups of the conferences are listening and are actually trying to figure out how to make this thing work.
Yeah, and that's good. And and it's good that they're listening to the players. Good that they're good that they're trying to figure out a solution. Because yeah, I mean, it's been the dilemma that sports has gone through, since March. It's the dilemma, like, as a sports fan you've gone through since March, because you've understood that, hey, it's an unsafe world out there. It's crazy right now. These are unprecedented times. But, we still want, our sports to be played. We still want to, at least in a way, feel a sense of normalcy. And, it does come a thought at some point that, like, hey, we're going to have to, figure out, because every sport eventually is going to have to, whether you've been in a bubble or not, you're going to have to figure out how to make it work, and in the sense of, without a bubble, if you want this to be prolonged, because like we talked about it last week or a couple weeks ago, obviously the NBA, when they start again in December, are not going to be in a bubble. The NFL is not in a bubble, the MLB is not in a bubble, and they're kind of wading through things. And when I saw the stuff about the Big Ten, I was actually relatively surprised, in the sense that, like, college football, as we talked about last week, is more regional than any other, or college sports are more regional than anything else. So, as we see McDermott throwing it down, nice. You love to see it. Game is tied, at least for me. I don't know if in the future it's not, but yeah. I mean, it's a crazy time, but yeah. I mean, you're trying to figure out what's best for everybody, because I mean, it's. What we were talking about earlier does make sense to an extent of, yes, if you send these guys home, if whatever, it may be a worse situation, but at the same time, it's like, okay, but that if you were to pull, a locker room, you wouldn't find a unanimous vote anywhere. There would be players that would opt out or want to opt out. And then what do? It's a slippery slope like that. So it's good that they're willing to, like, try to work it out.
Yeah, I think it is. And, pushing the start date back to September 26th kind of goes right along in line what you were just saying about the Indy 500. Like, why not push it back a little bit and see where we stand a month from now rather than 2 weeks from now?
And you've seen the NFL do the same thing, as far as be like, hey, you know what? We're prepared to delay the season, as far back as possible. That's actually what we talked about last week as well, in the sense that, they're prepared to, start the season in October, basically, and still have a, 14-game schedule with the Super Bowl in February. So, I think that may be the best way to go, because, we don't know, what the future is as far as that's concerned, as far as, like, where's testing going to be at, where's, how are we going to be able to, what's going to be the travel situation, what's life going to be like when we try to have a regular season, in these irregular times.
Right. I'm interested to see how the plan for the Denver Broncos works out. Not really plan. What they're doing is their players walk through this mister every time they enter the practice field or leave the practice field. And it's like an antibacterial body spray or something that basically disinfects them. So I'm interested to see how that could potentially work out for them. And if it's something that works, it looks pretty simple. I mean, it's just they walk through this little like doorway looking thing and it's spraying. It's just misting this disinfectant. So I wonder if that's something other sports could implement or other teams could implement, saying, hey, when you walk out onto the field or the court, you got to walk through this first.
Right.
Coming out of the locker room, it could be something useful.
I'm also interested. What do you have to do to become a virtual fan for a game?
You just have to sign. You have to sign up. It's like basically a wait list. I signed up, and if you get selected, you get an email saying, "Hey, you've been selected to be a virtual fan," and you watch it basically through Zoom.
I gotcha. So there's probably like just one camera feed that. So do you look at the game? I was gonna say, do you just get like, hey, you're gonna be on TV, but you just get the TV broadcast, or?
I don't know. I don't honestly. I'm not sure.
Because I'd almost rather get to view it as if I'm a fan. Like I'd rather it just be like, hey, here's your view. Here's the feed from. I mean, they probably don't have a specific view for like all the rows or whatever, but probably like
here's the view from your TV, from the monitor you're going to be on.
Yeah,
something like that. I think. I don't know, but hey, if I get selected, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is go to Pacers.com and you just submit your name and your email address and your birth date.
I'm assuming they send the virtual background of like them sitting in a chair.
Yeah, probably. Or yeah, that's what
Because I'm assuming there's no way to like kind of like superimpose that, and I'm sure they obviously wouldn't let you choose your own background because there'd be some crazy stuff, but.
Right.
But the Pacers are playing back in it now. It's a little bit more what we expected, kind of an even game so far. Right now, it's a 5-point lead for the Heat, 33-28. So, a game, it's gone about as at least how like I've expected this to go. It's been pretty back and forth, except for like the very like beginning. Going to update the score here. We want to thank you guys all for watching here on YouTube. We've had some people here in the chat. We appreciate it. We've got a like on the stream as well, so thank you guys all for coming in to the stream. And feel free to give us your thoughts about how the game's going if you are watching the game as well. But yeah, and also as usual, you can follow us on Twitter at Crash Course FM, like us on Facebook, Crash Course Podcast, and you can find the Crash Course Podcast every week at anchor.fm/Crash Course. And so what we'll be doing is once the game ends, we'll be giving our kind of our final thoughts, and that's what if you do want to hear your final thoughts or you can't stay with us the entire time, that's what we'll be putting up on the website tomorrow. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Also, a new memory lane will be coming out. If you want to check that out as well, our YouTube exclusive content. We had a good reaction to that. And also, we're over 10 subscribers. We're now at 12. So thank you guys all for hanging out. We appreciate it. Yeah, you talked about sixth man. I mean, the bench has played well for the Pacers as well. Yeah, the bench has accounted for 19 of the Pacers' 28 points. So that's been, pretty good. And that's what you want. I mean, again, we'll bring it up again how, that's what the value of a good roster can do for you in the sense of, if you have a complete roster, 1 through 12, whatever it is, you if your starters have a bad night, you have those guys that can step up for you. I'm
Yeah,
interested.
but then there's the issue that the starters just can't hit the broadside of a barn with a beach ball tonight.
Right. Yeah, it's been a rough go for the starters. The Pacers' sole loss, we talked about a little bit earlier in the bubble so far has been to the Phoenix Suns, who did beat the Heat the other night, the same day that the Pacers beat the Lakers. So they're kind of showing themselves.
What's funny is that the Pacers are exactly where we thought they would be record-wise right now.
Yeah.
Except we didn't think the one loss would be to the Suns. We thought it would have been to the Lakers.
Well, see, because I was thinking, they're 3-1 in the bubble so far. They've beat the Lakers
4-1.
4-1. Because I thought they were going to lose to the Sixers. I thought they were going to beat the Magic and the Suns, and then lose to I thought they were going to be more around 4-4, and then this was this kind of gauntlet of a final stint in the bubble where you had to face the Heat twice, the Lakers, and the Rockets.
Well, they still technically could be 4-4.
Yeah, they could
end
up.
You lose these next three, you're 4-4.
Right. I think that's where you miss Sabonis, just that inside presence on the boards to really help you out. And I mean, there hasn't been any update as to my knowledge if he'll be back for the postseason. I mean, obviously the odds are better the better the Pacers are playing, but also, I mean, you also have to factor in that if he comes back, and I don't want to be that person. I hate those people that are like, yeah, I mean, do we even want Sabonis back? We're doing so well without him. But obviously that's something that is also going to have to be taken into consideration is how this team might work without Sabonis.
If Sabonis can come back, we want him back.
Well, right, yeah, exactly. But it's just about reworking him back into a system. Like, it'll, be his first games back since COVID's, broke out. And it'll also be... you after working, through this bubble for 2 weeks and being without him, you now have to work him back in. Obviously, you make it work, but just saying that's going to obviously be a challenge.
You just have him, you're not going to expect him to come right back in as a starter because he's been out and he's been injured. You have him come in off the bench.
Right.
And he plays limited minutes because he's trying to work back into the game, but That'd be a great piece to have coming off the bench. I mean, how many teams can have an all-star that comes off the bench?
Very true. Had to restart my feed because it froze on me. Big sad.
So that means Craig is now about an entire quarter behind everybody
Yeah,
else.
yeah. Like Craig, the game is over. Why are you still in the second? Those of you who are out there watching, what have you thought of the Pacers so far tonight? And what are your thoughts about how the rest of the season is going to go and how the postseason is going to go? Because I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'm conflicted on how I feel about them in a playoff series.
Especially
against the Heat, yeah. Like, because I think this team is good enough to go. I don't want to say Eastern Conference Finals, but I think they can at least win one round. But it depends on if that one round is against the Heat. Is it against It's going to be tough, I guess, regardless. But you know, it'll be interesting to see. Because that's the thing too. You compare last season and this season. Obviously, last season ended without Oladipo, and all that kind of thing. But like, if you look at if they lose in the first round of the Heat, you look at back-to-back years where you lost in the first round, and of course they've had their first round issues. But I think you're much more you're much happier about the way things are going, at this year than maybe you were, a year ago.
Right.
Even though the results are essentially the same. But that's why, again, I'll say it again. That's why, as Warren's starting to pick it up a little bit, like that's why I think that the East could be potentially insane as far as is it are we going to be surprised if it's Giannis? Will it most likely be Giannis and the Bucks? Sure, but again, you've got the Raptors who are good, who are surprisingly good this year. You've got the Heat who are playing well. You've got the Celtics who are a good team. Who will once Pop retires be the best coach in the league. And I'm sure there's arguments now that he's the best coach in the league. And then you've got the Pacers who are playing well. I think the Sixers are kind of were dealt a pretty bad blow. Now they're going to miss Ben Simmons. Although that team, I feel like, is always injured, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. So it's going to be, I think the Eastern Conference playoffs, even if they go the way we expect them to go, are still going to be very entertaining to watch, and it's not for the same reason that the West is going to be entertaining to watch.
Right.
another thing that I've said, multiple times too, is that I think what the NBA has done, even with the bubble, has been insanely good. Like it's been, this is the one sport right now that has done the best with adapting to the current times. As far as
I don't know. I think NASCAR
well,
done pretty well.
of the sports that can't socially distance, NASCAR and IndyCar are in their own category because
And NASCAR was the first ones to bring fans back to anything.
yeah. Yeah, that's going to be the interesting thing to watch as time goes on as well, is how fans are reintegrated back, because this no fans, like basically come, and I mean basically come the start of the football season. So come September, you'll have, because as far as I know, NFL is having fans, except for like specific. I mean, there are some specific.
I think they're like doing like 25% capacity or something like that.
So like you're only gonna see, for baseball and basketball, you're only gonna see no fans for the remainder of the current season that they're in, and then you're gonna start seeing fans, because I think that you can socially distance with the fans. I mean, obviously you're not making as much money, but you are making, because like that's what I think, and not to break away from sports too much, but I think that's what's crazy about the current state of things, is because like you can't, like you can still have some things, but like as far as like, because for instance, how it is like a fan going to get a do you open up the concession stands? If a fan goes to the concession stand, how is that different than if they were to be out at a restaurant right now? And obviously they're operating at different capacities.
Yeah, I mean,
and
this is giving them the time to think of those types of things.
Yeah, and also like, how do you do? We have somebody in the chat. Life hack: show the actual game on screen and use a controller to pretend you're playing 2K. There you go. There's an idea. Willie Lopez in the chat. Thank you for stopping by. But yeah, I mean, it's just, and also like how you actually incorporate the fans back in the stands is going to be interesting too, because do you sell them as groups, and you're not going to be able, once they bought the ticket, you can't, are you going to kick someone out for not wearing a mask? It's going to be crazy. But
and how do you know they're not wearing a mask? Because they're drinking a beer.
Right. True.
Like that was one of the things I was wondering about with the Indy 500. It's like, well, I'm going to be out there all day, so I'm going to have to eat at some point, and I do like to take a cooler of beer. So I'm going to have to I can't drink my beer through my mask. I don't like filtered beer.
Yeah. Just the funnel. I've got a mask, but it's got a funnel in it.
Hey, I have seen, there was somebody that posted a video of a mask that I saw somebody made, had a little string on it, and he pulled on the string and a flap came up and he could put a straw inside the flap.
There you go. So we've got a minute 36, or about a minute and a half to play in the second quarter.
You are that far behind?
Yeah, I'm that way. Where's it at with you?
I am we have 47.1 seconds left to play in the first half, and the Pacers are leading the Miami Heat 47-44.
Oh, nice. So I'm at 44-44. Yeah, I don't know why I'm so far behind. I mean, I guess theoretically you're in Indianapolis, so you're closer to the feed than I am.
I think you're also watching on a stream.
Yeah, that's true too. I still like that, pretending you're playing 2K. I think YouTube might be wise to that when they see the different scoring, the different scoreboard than you're used to seeing, and the fact that you're going to see commercials as well. I don't remember these commercials being in 2K.
I mean, hey, it is the same crowd noise.
Yeah, true. Very true.
okay, Miles, you cannot tackle. This isn't football. You don't tackle the person.
I mean, to be fair, he is like built like an NFL player, but he's got to learn that you can't do that.
Well, in his defense, Jimmy Butler did just decide I'm going to hold the ball and stand here as everybody turns around and runs up court.
How do we feel about Jimmy Butler? I'm not saying like we're gonna say anything bad about him, but I mean as far as like I feel
he reminds me of a Paul George. Like,
yeah.
what have you done that really gets you? I mean, yeah, you're good, but
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I feel it's funny because I feel it's like he's reverse Derrick Rose. I didn't like Derrick Rose when he was on the Bulls because when he was on the Bulls, he was scary good. He was a thorn in the side of the Pacers. He kind of he was it was Derrick Rose in the Bulls, LeBron in the Cavs, and you were just kind of trying to chase them to catch up. And ever since Derrick Rose has been off the Bulls, like I've liked, he's been a fun story to watch. Jimmy Butler, I liked him when he was on the Bulls. I was like, okay, this is a guy who's going to kind of turn this team around a little bit. And then, yeah, kind of Paul George syndrome where he's, talked the talk but has yet to walk the walk.
yeah. Pacers have an opportunity here to go into halftime with a lead.
Yeah.
2.2 seconds left. Tied 48-48. Malcolm Brogdon on the line with one free throw remaining. So we'll see. Oh, and he missed it.
Big.
Going to half, tied 48-48.
Yep, so there you have it at the break, 48-48. So, I mean, Pacers have come alive here in the second quarter. They've tied it up. Playing good basketball here.
It's been an ugly game. I'll say that. Very physical, but ugly.
You're looking at some of the the numbers here at halftime. Looking at the box score, you've got Warren with 12, you've got Turner with 4, Brogdon with 5, and Oladipo with 6. But the bench has been the story. I mean, you've had McDermott with 2, Sampson with 2, Holiday with 7, McConnell with 5, and Sumner with 5. On the other side of it for the Heat, you've got their starters. You've got Butler with 10, Adebayo with 8, Crowder with 6, Dragic with 7, and Robinson with 3. Then you've got, let's see, Jones Jr. Who is Jones Jr.? Derek Jones Jr. with 10 points off the bench. Kelly Olynyk with 2. Iguodala's not scored any, and then you've got Hero with 2. So, it's been the Pacers bench versus the Heat starters so far.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, but the Pacers clawed back in it at one point, down 19-9, down 23-19 at the end of the first quarter, and they rally to tie things at halftime. So
one of the things the Pacers need to shore up on is they could have easily had a lead in this, but they've missed too many free throws in the first half.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've never understood about NBA players. Like, you're not. Some of them they're mediocre free throw shooters. It's like how can you be a mediocre free throw shooter as a professional basketball player? They're called free throws. It's basically free points.
Yeah.
That's one thing I'll just never understand it.
And I think what it's happened is it's been the NBA slowly kind of breaking away from what you're kind of used to and taught at like the lower levels of, you know, of basketball. Like, for instance, you can travel in the NBA. You can't travel in a high school game or in a college game. You see flopping at this level. Not maybe as much as you used to, but
because they've now made it a rule. You
right?
can actually get called for flopping.
Right. So you've seen things kind of get away from what you're typically used to when you get taught basketball, like in your high school and younger days. You've got also the Raptors did beat the Bucks tonight, 114-106. The Mavericks beat the Jazz, 122-114. Suns win again. They beat the Thunder. So it was like the Suns are still undefeated in the bubble, right?
I think they're the only undefeated.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't think they can do anything, right? Like, they can't actually make the playoffs.
Yeah, again, they haven't been mathematically eliminated.
Okay.
I think they're only like a game behind the 8th seed. They're going to be in the play-in game.
Yeah, right now the Suns. Yeah, you're right. They are one game back. I don't know if this is updated for tonight, but they're one game back of the Grizzlies.
As of last night.
Okay.
As of last night, you can say.
Yeah. So that's pretty crazy. We've seen the Pelicans get eliminated. That's we kind of put the kibosh and the jinx on that. Got the Spurs still alive. You've got the Suns still alive, and the Blazers still alive. I'm really excited to see that play-in game, like the play-in format. I think it's
great. We're actually going to get to see it.
Yeah, and like I think it's going to be something that it's something I want to stay in the NBA, and I think it's really easy to keep it. Like, it's not like you're adding a whole nother 5-game. You're not messing with however many games the first round is, and you're not making it such a painstaking long process that it's going to take anything away from the first round. Right. And I think it's a way to, get the playoffs started with a bang, because essentially, you could potentially be starting the playoffs with 2 Game 7s, and I think keeping the format like that is the way you do it too. As far as the 9th seed has to beat the 8th seed twice, and it only happens if they're actually close in the standings, because obviously we don't want to see it if the 9th seed was 10 games back of the 8th seed. Obviously that would be insane anyway, but you wouldn't want to see that potentially play out. What you do want to see is if you've got 2 teams that are maybe you truncate that down a little bit. Maybe you say, hey, if you're within a game and a half or 2 games, maybe change that for next season. But I think that's something they should keep for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be good. But it probably will happen, because we all know the NBA likes to make things as long as possible.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is too is the things they've brought in this season, that I think they should carry over. It makes me think of because that's what all I can do is I can compare it to baseball, and it's like baseball is such an easy fix with instead of adding basically instead of adding five more, or no, what is it? It's instead of adding six more playoff teams, why don't you just make the wild card round 3 games? There, you solved it. You still have only 10 teams in. You solve it by having, the wild card game not be a 1 game play in. You know, with basketball, I mean, this is right away. This without needing any tweaks. This is with the exception of maybe the games, however many games you can be back. Like, this is a good way to do it. If the 8th seed wins, they're in. The better team wins, they're golden. But if the 9th seed wins, then it creates winner take all, and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I like that idea.
You don't make it a gimmicky, because that's where you run into issues with baseball is like a 1 game. You won't see it as much in basketball, but if you have if and you've got, like, for instance, if you have the Suns play the Grizzlies, the Suns don't have to beat the Grizzlies once; they have to beat them twice, and I think that's good. I think that's a way to not create anything super gimmicky. Like, okay, we're already in a game 7, and it's basically the 9th seed has to play 2 game 7, so the pressure is still on them. But there is still some added pressure, so I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how people react to it. I mean, I can already tell you right now that the ratings for the NBA aren't the greatest right now.
Really?
Yeah, they're getting beat out by a lot of other different things, and it's pretty noticeable how low the ratings are. I don't know if they're just going off of the national TV ratings, and people are just sick and tired of seeing LeBron.
Maybe.
Or if they're looking at ratings of all the games and even in their local markets.
I can't imagine the local markets being poorly rated. You know what I mean?
That's my question. That's why I wonder, because I can see on the national scale. I mean, oh my gosh! And okay, the Lakers are playing again, or the Rockets are playing again, and you're not seeing anybody else, and you may be kind of fed up with the gimmick that LeBron is putting out there right now. I know a lot of people are also really upset with the NBA and their handling of their partnership with China. So that's a big factor.
And along those lines, I don't, we won't delve too deep into this, but I'm also sure it's, because of some of the stances that the NBA has taken politically as well.
Right. It's the stances that they're taking here within our country, and how they don't coincide of what's going on. I mean, if you're going to take those stances here in this country, people would think you should also take those stance with one of your biggest business partners in China.
Yeah.
And it's, they fall in line, they toe the line with China, but then here they have it's a different stance.
Yeah.
So that's what it's more about. It's like, if you're going to walk the walk, we're totally understandable of you wanting, to work, social injustices, totally fine. But if you're going to promote that, then you need to look at one of your biggest business partners and how they're treating the people in their country as well. Yeah. You can't have it both ways. I think that's where people are kind of fed up. There's a little bit of hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Within it, and
And then you're also, I'm sure it also had, you saw the same effect as you've seen with any sport, that's come back and now has been back. Because, like, for instance, I watched, the first 2 NASCAR races until, like, baseball started up again and the NBA started up again. And now I haven't watched as much NASCAR. I haven't watched as much IndyCar as I did, when everything first came back. So, and I'm sure because, except for if you're a team, because, like, for instance, unless you're a Wizards fan, for the Eastern Conference, your playoff fate was pretty much sealed, and you're just kind of, this is just kind of filler until we get into the postseason. Same kind of with the West. Like, unless you were a team, it's a little bit more intriguing in the West because you still have 3 teams still alive, but unless you're a fan of a team at some of these lower levels, the early games were kind of a palate cleanser, and then now you're kind of like, all right, well, it's still it's not it's a different atmosphere. With the fans not being there, even though they are there virtually, it's kind of a different weird kind of thing. So we don't really want to tune in now, but we'll tune in come like if the playoff numbers, I guess is what I'm getting to. If the playoff numbers are still like not the greatest, then that's when I would start to kind of worry. But I think it'll pick back up again like once the postseason, gets back into full form.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. I'll admit I have watched quite a bit of NASCAR, quite a bit of IndyCar, Pacers. I've watched the Pacers as much as I can. I have not watched one game of baseball.
Yeah, what I've done is I've been good about like watching, like I've been good about watching the Cubs, doing my best to watch the Cubs, but the real like I think I've found so much other content like during the like shutdown and everything that like I'm like, well, and I've had trouble with like some apps and stuff not wanting to show me the games and stuff like that. So I've been like, well, if the game won't work or if it's blacked out or whatever it is, then I guess I'll. And that's the trouble with that baseball is facing right now is that their game isn't very accessible.
Right. And I think for me, it's also I'm finding myself watching these things more because they're on in like the afternoon.
Yeah.
And even like the Pacers are playing in the afternoons in the middle of the week during the weekdays, so I can be doing work and have the Pacers on while I'm working, and I like that. I kind of that's fun. I like that.
Right. Sorry, I had to look down at my phone for a second. Mama Collins was calling, and it was one of those things where, like, well, she knows what time I record the podcast every week, so better check on that. Make sure nothing crazy, because we are having some storms right now too. So I didn't know if anything was going on with that.
You better ask her why she's not tuned in.
Yeah, like, come on. We're calling you out, Mama Collins. Why are you not watching the stream right now? Yeah, and we talk about, just kind of not, the unknowns of, next season for sports and, what it's going to look like in the playoffs for, the NBA as they get ready to start the third quarter.
Interesting stat that just popped up as the third quarter has already started.
See, don't come at me like it's like my fault. It's not my fault.
The Pacers are 9 of 15 from the free throw line. That's an interesting stat. Yeah. And the Pacers have come out of the locker room cold, and the Miami Heat they're on fire. They're hot. The Heat are hot.
Makes sense. But yeah, it's and I think that's been a little bit of a part of the problem is the fact that like there are so many unknowns, like even with like high school sports right now. High school sports right now, we don't know, like, are they going to let however many fans in the stands? It's kind of been a case-by-case basis, so it'll be...
I don't think they need to be allowing fans in the stands for high school sports, maybe immediate family.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I've been leaning.
Let's be honest there. It's not, that one, that's easy. Let family in and coaches that are there to recruit players.
Yeah, I mean, and that is a fair point, and it's some of the schools that I cover with Indiana SRN, and that kind of thing. That will be easier to enforce, but when you get into some of the big time across the state, that's when it's going to get kind of interesting. Not to say
the Carmels, the Center Groves, the Fishers,
and
Westfields,
not to say that because that's what makes high school sports different than professional sports um, and college sports is that you know it's not. I mean, I guess for a Warren Central or a Carmel, you do have a little bit more fancier facilities that might
You know what's funny though? I have found because I went to high school in the same conference as Warren, and Warren was a we we've I've gone to games at Warren. It was always surprising to me how few fans were actually in the stands at Warren Central.
really.
That always kind of surprised me. Like my senior year, we played against them at Warren in the sectional championship for football, and I think we outnumbered the Warren Central fans. Now we lost. We basically lost the game by halftime, but I mean Warren was essentially like a small college football team.
Yeah.
Their running back was Darren Evans.
There you go. Yeah.
So yeah, but it's okay. In basketball, our center was Greg Oden, and our point guard was Mike Conley.
Very true. Very true. Is Mike Conley still in the Grizzlies?
Yeah. Oh no. He's with the Jazz.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, the Heat have come out strong here in the second half, and I mean, it could just be it took the Pacers a little bit to get into the first half as well, so maybe it's just kind of one of those things where you started the half off cold both times, which I mean obviously you'd rather finish the half stronger than start it off stronger. I mean obviously you'd rather be strong the whole way through, but.
All right, guys. There's something I keep seeing in the digital fans. There is a girl, and the seat next to her is another girl, and one of the girls is like really just trying to mess with this girl next to her, even though they're not in the same room. Obviously, right. She keeps reaching over and looking like she keeps poking her or slapping her in the face. Oh, the girl just got ejected. The girl messing with the other girl just got ejected. She's no longer there.
What?
The digital police got her. Digital security.
What? Oh, wow. Okay.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I just saw it.
Yeah.
Okay, that kid's like taking a nap. What? That's so crazy.
Where she wasn't poking, she was like grabbing in areas that
shouldn't be grabbed at.
That is, she's back in the game. They allowed her back in.
They're like, hey, knock that crap off.
One more assault like that, and you're done. You're out.
Yeah.
So then that makes me wonder then if they are getting like the TV feed for her to be able to see who was sitting next to her.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, probably because I was gonna try to say, well, maybe like they also because I mean if it's a one big Zoom call and you happen to see, but yeah, you're right. I mean for her to know where she was, she'd have to be seeing the TV. That's funny though. That's crazy.
Man. All right, the Pacers are playing a little out of control right now.
The funny thing is that they not only did they show that on TV once, but then they showed it on TV again.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they were like, "Hey, you know what we should do? Go back to that."
That's Ken Softman. What's going on? What's going on there, Ken?
We demand answers.
I want to know what's going on here. the one player I've been very impressed with outside of TJ Warren in their play here in the bubble, Aaron Holiday. Aaron
Yeah.
Holiday has really one. I mean, he looks like he's hit the weight room big time during the layoff from the pandemic. But he's he's not lighting up the stat sheet by any means, but he is just playing very solid basketball, and you feel very confident having him out on the court with the starters now.
Yeah.
And so I'm really intrigued to see his growth into next season. Now that he's seen his true potential, how can he take that now to the next level next year? And it's very different from how I see him when I'm playing 2K. He is such his CPU. Like I do the 2K where I'm you have your player and you try to work your player through the career mode.
Yeah.
And I got drafted by the Pacers, and Aaron Holiday is a complete ball hog on that team. I mean, he will hold the ball for like 15 seconds and then jack up some random shot at the end of the shot clock, and you're just like, what were you thinking? Of course, TJ McConnell's that way too on it, but that's definitely not TJ McConnell in real life.
No. Yeah, I have NBA 2K18. It's been a minute since I've played it. They do try to funnel a lot of stuff through online, like the My Team stuff. But what I really like about 2K is their like My League that they have. Because I mean, I've been a little overwhelmed with it, but where you can basically customize your own league. That's what I've wanted, like MLB the Show to start doing. Especially like if MLB the Show. I mean, I can't knock MLB the Show because they're a good game. I love it. They're a good game every single year. But like this year has been extra frustrating because of they kind of I don't know. It's tough to explain. I feel kind of hung out to dry. Some of the stuff that they have where you try to like level up like throughout a program, they've made it like exceptionally tough. And it's like, well, if you're not someone who can sit there for, 4 hours at a time and grind, you're kind of like, well, what do I do now? So some of the stuff has been a little frustrating. The content has still been really good. Gameplay has been a little off this season because they've made hitting more difficult, and now it's almost impossible. But that would be one thing that I would see, and I would love if they implemented that in MLB The Show, is implemented like a My Team type situation, or My League.
Yeah, I can see that. I like that. I don't know what you're talking about. They made hitting harder.
So
in Road to the Show, I mean, I'm killing it.
Well, so another thing that you'd have to bring up too is, what is your difficulty at? Because I'll tell you what my difficulty's at as far as
mine's at the highest level.
You're hitting on Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
I got you.
But I also I've worked my player to make sure that that's what he's best at is hitting.
Right. So, and I mean, and like hitting, I will admit, is one of my weaker points. I'm really good at pitching, but hitting, I've gotten better. I mean, the harder hitting this year has made me better at hitting. So maybe I should just be thankful for it. But because what I have as far as like anything that's not Diamond Dynasty, because you can't set it on a difficulty in Diamond Dynasty, is dynamic. So as you get better, the game gets harder, basically. Like it gets more difficult. So that's what I have it on. But the hitting mechanics, so they've made it more reliant on what's called PCI. So there you have like basically, I don't know if you've seen it, like a smaller bubble inside of the batter's the strike zone. And if you line that up with where you're hitting the ball, it's supposed to give you. But like in the past, like that's mattered, but not as much as it has this year. So that's why it's been tough. And plus, like you can time up a pitch, 100 times, and you're probably going to be out 90% of the time. It's going to be either a lazy, you're going to, nail a ball, and it's going to be a lazy fly ball to center, um, or
One thing I have noticed, this is in every year, it seems like you can nail a ball and it's booking, it's moving quick, and all of a sudden it just hangs up in the air
yeah,
just enough for the outfielder to get underneath it.
right,
Or the outfielder will make some spectacular diving catch that, isn't even humanly possible.
right, yeah. So it's been a little rough, but I still love it. I'm not near to the point as the Pacers are on my screen. I'll start referring to it on that way. On my screen are down by 10. Now, okay, I was
They're
gonna
still
say,
down by 10 on mine.
yeah, it's been a rough quarter, but the way they ended the first half, I'm confident they could come back, make some hay here. Um,
Oh, we have a Goga sighting on mine.
there you go. But yeah, it's nowhere near the frustration that I feel for Madden, where I'm considering not even buying the game this year.
Oh, with Madden, if you don't get any type of separation on a corner,
Oh yeah,
he's intercepting it.
yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's been
There's no such thing as a 50-50 ball. A 50-50 ball always, it's 100% of the time to the corner.
yeah. That's been my biggest gripe. Here's here's what I've been thinking about doing, because like everybody knows who's played sports video games back in the day. It was you would call a Hail Mary and just toss it up to your receiver, and 90% of the time it'd be a touchdown or it'd be a catch. Then with Madden, they made it to where like basically any pass, yeah, like you're absolutely right. If you're not throwing to someone who's wide open, it's going to be tipped or intercepted. Then Madden 16. So one of the things I want to do is I want to sell Madden 20 and any copies of Madden that I already have, get whatever I can for it, which will probably be like a rusty nickel, and go get Madden 16 again for probably it's probably like $20 still or something like that. Go get Madden 20 or Madden 16 again, because that was the last time. That was the most I've played Madden, was Madden 16, because you could actually throw it up to your receiver and it might have a chance of being caught. Like in my career mode, I had who was it? I'm trying to think of his name. Kelvin Benjamin on my team. And so he had height on everyone, and it was incredibly fun to play. And was it awesome because I had a tall wide receiver to throw to? Absolutely. But it was like, I don't feel like I'm getting cheated for trying to go for a deep ball. And then, ever since then, they've tweaked it up again, and it's impossible to complete a pass. So I'm like, I kind of want to dust off the old PS3 and start playing NCAA 14 again, which is, still has some of the flaws that Madden has in the sense of being able to throw and complete passes, but still, I think it was a more fun game.
The other other gripe I have is, it seems like a lot of times when I go with a run play, especially in goal line situations, you snap the ball in the I formation, and it seems like the linebacker is already in the backfield.
Oh yeah,
it's like, wait a second.
And it's
first off, I'm playing with the Colts, and you came around the left side you got through the left side of the line that quick. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think you're getting by Quentin Nelson that quickly, or Anthony Costanzo. I mean, it's just like you snap the ball and bam, they're there.
Yeah.
Like, wait a second. I don't think that's even possible. I mean, maybe every once in a while, but every time in a goal line situation.
Yeah.
But if you want to score in a goal line situation, the best thing to do is call a pass play in the shotgun and just have your QB push up through a hole in the line and score that way. trying to use a designed run play for a goal line situation.
Yeah, it's because the gameplay is tailored towards online play, which does not, there's more passing than anything in online, I feel like.
Yeah.
So it's not looking good for
I wish I could play online Madden, but I have no idea how to change my email address to get into my EA Sports account because they still have it as my Ball State email. And I'm like,
so not looking good for the Pacers right now. Down by 14. As you can tell, we have not been talking about the Pacers, so you can kind of ascertain by that. The game is not going well at this point. Oh, wait, I didn't change it to the right score. I have it as a 19-point game. Wait, did it not? Oh, it didn't adjust. Okay, there we go. Okay. Yeah, not looking good for the Pacers so far. Heat have kind of asserted themselves. The Pacers just, and it happens. I mean, you're gonna have nights like this where your starters are, not playing the way they should. The bench can only take you so far. So it's rough. They can still obviously, because that's what the great thing about their win over the Lakers the other day was the fact that, there was a point in time during that game where, they kind of let things start to slip away from them in that one too, and they were able to rally the troops and come back and win. So it could still happen. But, tonight they just have not looked as good as they were. And obviously, you're coming off a big win. Kind of all those cliches start to crop into your mind, like, oh, well, coming off a big win, you kind of got that hangover effect. But yeah, I'm not discouraged with what I've seen from the Pacers, but obviously it's been a rough night for them so far.
Yeah.
Just a reminder, while we have a little bit of a break in the action, you can follow at Crash Course FM on Twitter, Crash Course Podcast on Facebook. The podcast comes out every Tuesday. We are based out of anchor.fm/Crash Course, but it gets distributed to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Wherever you can find a podcast, you can find us. So make sure you tune in for that. Next week, we will be having our playoff special, and we'll also be talking a little bit about the Indy 500 as well, doing a little bit of a preview of that. So it'll be fun. You won't want to miss that. Also, just as a quick announcement as well, we will be moving our content back. We will still have content on YouTube, but we'll be moving the podcast itself back over to Facebook. So be on the lookout for that. Jeremiah Johnson on my screen, the former Ball State Cardinal.
Also, my former boss.
Yeah. Made a few appearances on the Crash Course show at Ball State.
The other night I was watching Pacers post game and everything and watching the game with my wife, and I was telling her, I was like, listen to the way JJ interviews and asks questions. I said, everything, the way I interview is the way he does it. The way I learned how to conduct interviews from him.
Yeah.
So basically, a lot of what I do, I can say it's all thanks to him.
And he's a good one to model yourself after too. He obviously he's working with the Indiana Pacers and has been there for a few years now.
And just so everybody, I was his intern when he was at Fox 59 back in 2010. So quite some time ago.
Yeah. With the first iteration of the Pacers Heat rivalry.
No, we weren't even at that level yet.
Were we not? In 20, I guess not. It wasn't until 2012, 2013?
Yeah.
basically it all just kind of runs together for me. It's been
Like the Pacers, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because I was a summer intern and the Pacers were done by the time I got there.
I got you.
I mean, I think that may have been like Tyler Hansbrough era. Pacers were not in the playoffs at that point in time. Because I got there, we went right into Indy 500 coverage and then right into Indiana Fever. The only thing we did with the Pacers is we covered the auditions for the Indiana Pacemates.
There you go.
Mostly we were already there doing some interviews for the Fever, and the media relations guy was like, hey, we're also conducting auditions for the Pacemates if you guys want to check that out. Yes, we do.
Yes, that the answer to that is yes.
And it's always yes. Okay. This game's starting to get a little bit ridiculous. The Pacers have completely fallen off.
Yeah, I don't even have a scoring icon right now.
Right now, 50 seconds left in the third quarter. The Heat lead 83-67.
Yeah. Not ideal.
And the Heat just cannot miss right now. It's rather ridiculous. Now, mind you, halftime score was 48-48. Oh, wow. Oladipo with a potential 4-point play. Oh, yeah, okay.
See, they said, what did you say, B. Scott? We're still hanging in here.
Victor Oladipo with a solid 13 points tonight on 3 of 5 from 3-point range. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Get ready to shoot a free throw here to get it to 14 points, maybe. Yep. Still down by 14 points, though, going in with 30 seconds left in the third quarter.
Yeah, not looking good. Yeah, I mean, just 19 points this quarter for the Pacers as opposed to, what, 37 for the Heat?
Yeah.
What's funny is I just said how much I didn't like when players kind of do that little like kick out when they.
But he didn't kick out. He did not kick out. He made the shot and he basically.
Yeah, he okay. Now that I look now the replay did it better justice. Watching it live was like, okay, dude, you're making me look bad because now I just said I didn't like that and now it happened again.
Yeah, he didn't step into anybody. All right, well, that's it. At the end of the third quarter, the Miami Heat are leading 85-71. Definitely not the Pacers' best performance in the bubble. Hopefully this isn't an indication of their play starting to tail off, but we'll see. And it just a reminder, I mean, it does not get any easier for the Pacers from this point on. I mean, you have the Heat, the Rockets, the Heat, and then guess what? You go into the playoffs against the Heat. So it's time to buckle up because it's not going to get any easier.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll be more worried if it's like if they come out. I mean, even if they play poorly against the Rockets, like again, like if they come out against the Heat again, so like let's say that let's say if theoretically they lost to, the Rockets, now they're, what at that point they'd be 4-3 in the bubble, like I'd say 5-3 with the schedule they had with the last little bit of during these like seeding games. I think that's a solid record with who they had in front of them. But yeah, I'm not so much worried about the Rockets. Obviously, if they go get beat by like 30, obviously that's not great. But like if they play like this against the Heat next time out, then that's when I'd be worried. Because ultimately, I mean, that's who you're going to be playing in the playoffs. And if you come out flat against them, I mean, especially because like there's not, I mean, yes, you don't have Sabonis, but you also didn't have Sabonis like when you started out 4-1 in the bubble. So like you proved you can win and beat a team like the Lakers without Sabonis. So if you go out against, you know, the Heat, you get swept by the Heat, or you play poorly against the Heat the next time out, and then you go out in the playoffs and get, you know, boat raced by the Heat out of the playoffs. You know, you don't have an excuse like last year when they, you know, didn't have Oladipo, or, you know, you can't really say, hey, well, we didn't have Sabonis. Well, yeah, but you also started the bubble and were tied with this Heat team, you know, at the half of the first game, you know, that you played, you know, in the bubble against them at the half without Sabonis. So you can't really then go in and say, well, it's because of this or because of that, because, you know, you had your opportunities, you know, to beat them.
Yeah. The issue for the Pacers is they need to get a win here, at least one win here in these next 3 games. Because if you go 0-3 over the next 3, it looks like you're going to lose tonight. If you go, you know, lose the next 2 then as well, there's a real strong possibility you're going to fall to the 6th seed and have to play the Celtics in the first round. But I kind of feel like the Pacers match up a lot better against the Celtics than the Heat. So maybe that might end up being a better matchup for them.
Right.
I don't know. We'll see. Pacers are starting the fourth quarter off here with a full bench lineup on the court.
I will say that too, is that like, you know, there was a lot of talk, you know, in the early, you know, and obviously it's been a few years and the narrative has kind of gone away, but there was some question marks around, you know, McMillan. But I think, you know, that's what, you know, he's good about making adjustments like that, as far as like, you know, and it's an easy adjustment. I mean, obviously it's an easier adjustment to make because you're like, well, obviously the bench has been playing better, but, you know, there's some guys, some coaches out there that would just be like, well, I mean, our starters are our starters for a reason, so let's go. You know, he's not afraid to be like, hey, let's. And again, it's, you know, I'll say it again in the sense that, you know, it's an advantage to having a, you know, a more complete team, because when you have a, you know, just a couple of guys that are, you know, superstars, and then you know, a bunch of guys who are starting that would normally be on the bench on any other team, you know, that's when you can run into some issues. So it's nice to.
I think that's the difference between a team that, you know, has like a big 3 and then a team like the Pacers. The team that has like the big 3, they really have to ride their starters until the wheels fall off, because they just don't have that depth. Whereas the Pacers, they build a team.
Right.
You know, and yeah, it may not always be what's going to win you an NBA championship, but it's going to be competitive and fun to watch. Hopefully. Jakar Sampson just scored for the other team. Like, come on, man.
It's been that kind of night for the Indiana
Pacers. Kind
Pacers.
of night where you pass it directly to the Miami Heat player on several occasions. How do you not see them? They're wearing bright neon blue jerseys with pink numbers on them.
I do like how really a lot, like, both, you know, everybody except for the Dolphins have kind of, you know, in Miami have embraced the kind of Miami Vice look, and I like it.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I'm glad.
The Dolphins kind of have. They've changed up their colors a little bit. They're more.
They've worn. they've worn their teal a little bit more, which I like. The Dolphins, I love their teal jerseys.
And you have to think also the Dolphins are a much more iconic
Yeah, true.
franchise than the Heat and the Marlins have ever been.
That is a very good point. Oh man.
Jakar Sampson, how about you get a rebound rather than volleying it up in the ball up into the air right into the hoop of the other team? That's twice now.
That's just, dude. He's like, this is more impressive. This is what I'd rather be doing.
As in the famous words of the angry captain or flight deck director on Top Gun, that's twice. I want some butts. In reference to him getting coffee spilled on his shirt.
Yeah, hovering around, that double digits. And it's like the Pacers in that first half, they were able to kind of get on a little bit of a run, but they haven't been able to string really much together. And like you said, I mean, the Heat have just not been able to miss. I'll tell you, I think the Heat are going to be a team in the Eastern Conference playoffs that, in our playoff preview next week, they're a team that I could see going. I mean, they could be in the, I think they could potentially be in the Eastern Conference Finals, at worst, at minimum, if not, being the Eastern.
Guys, I don't know, Craig, where Craig's at, but we are now at a 20-point lead for the Miami Heat.
I'm at 18, so I'm assuming it's getting ready to happen.
And it's become just a high-flying circus act. I mean, they're out there playing. It's like the Harlem Globetrotters versus the Washington Generals right now. Not a good look. Not a good look for them. So, yeah, that's kind of where the Pacers stand right now. Not exactly in a good place.
I just heard a toilet go off in the background. That's pretty much sums up the night for the Pacers.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh man. I know this is kind of producing on the fly here, but do you want to even do anything after the game as far as analysis? It's kind of been...
Probably not. I've been giving my analysis as we've gone along here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been rough. The Pacers have not looked good. But, I mean, like I've said, it's kind of one of those things where, they haven't... they've looked so good through the first 5 games, that you're more open to, like, if this game happened but they were 2-2 and got run out of the gym by the Lakers and the Sixers, like I thought that would be the case, then that's when you kind of are like, well, this is kind of a lost cause. But they've played really well. Like I said, I wouldn't really be worried until the second game against the Heat. If the second game against the Heat rolls around and they play like this, then
we got some things to worry about. But like I said, they may have fallen to the 6th seed and be playing the Boston Celtics or the Toronto Raptors. Looks like probably the Boston Celtics in the first round, which could be an interesting matchup.
I think the Pacers, I feel more confident about the Pacers versus the Celtics than I do about the Pacers versus the Heat, to be honest.
Yeah, I do too. The Heat play a much more physical, high-flying, athletic style of basketball than the Pacers.
Right.
And it's showing. Pacers have essentially now put the starters back out minus Victor Oladipo, who's still on a minute limitation. So
yeah,
you got Doug McDermott out there in place of Vic.
they just flashed up for me. They flashed up the Western Conference standings, and you've got Houston now as a 4 seed. I think did they start the bubble at like 5 or 6?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure.
So it's another team that I mean. I think the West. I mean, I'll still need to see LeBron struggle, in the postseason before I'm like really concerned about them. But I mean, there's some interesting storylines in the West as well with what Houston can do back at full bore. You've got the Clippers who still have to kind of get their act together, but have Kawhi who's one of the better players. We talked about it in the all-decade conversation. Is one of the players that can go up against LeBron and actually, put up a good.
The thing is, right now, it's not that LeBron is struggling.
Right.
It's the rest of the team that's struggling.
True.
I guess the one thing I'm liking seeing is that Nate McMillan is willing to put the starters in at this point, and they're still fighting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with that for sure.
All right, well, at this point, I am going to hop off because I got to get up early in the morning and take my kids over to daycare.
All right. Well, B. Scott, thanks for joining us. And I mean, with the state of the game right now, I may do the same. But it's been a lot of fun. It was good, and I want to thank everybody for watching. Again, you can follow us at Crash Course FM on Twitter, Crash Course Podcast on Facebook. Anchor.fm/Crash Course is where you can find the podcast, but you can also find it wherever podcasts can be heard as well. It's been an interesting night, but hopefully the Pacers can come back, and yeah, I mean we'll be giving our NBA playoff preview next week, so it'll be a lot of fun.
Also, be giving our picks on who we think will win the Indy 500. So that will be another fun one as well, because by then we will actually know who is the pole sitter for the 104th running of the Indianapolis 500.
Very true. Very true. B. Scott, thank you for joining tonight, and I'll talk to you next week, bud.
All right. See everybody later.
All right. So let's see here. Yeah, it's not been the night that we've wanted to have, for for the Pacers. That's for sure. It has been a rough one. All right, so yeah, 98-80 right now is the score between the Pacers and the Heat. It's been a rough one. Let's see. I want to pull up the box score a little bit here and see kind of what's going on. Um, on the night, Warren's been held to 12. You've got Brogdon with 12, Oladipo with 14. Those have been really the only starters that have contributed. The bench, which was very strong for the Pacers, that's kind of dropped off, and that's where you've seen, the big drop off in production. Is you've seen the you originally had the bench was a vital part of everything for the Pacers, and now it's obviously dropped off, and it's 98-80, not looking good. But again, I don't want to, I feel like I keep repeating myself here, but I'm not worried about this loss. Obviously, it sucks, but you're primed, you're ready to go next time out. See how they play against the Rockets as well on Wednesday. So now that I'm all by my lonesome, who's out there in the chat? Who do we got watching? Appreciate you guys watching the YouTube channel. Trying to buff that up as much as possible. Like I said, we're gonna be. That doesn't sound like we're doing that, since we're taking the podcast back over to Facebook. But we're trying some things out. Trying to figure out, kind of what the podcast is going to look like going forward, as far as, how it's going to be distributed, what's our best path to growing it. Because, not to give you too big of a peek behind the curtain. I've always been a transparent person, but, the podcast before was just kind of, B. Scott and I, recording on, I would, we'd record the audio version, I'd edit it, and then just put it out, and that was it. And this season has been our first, real attempt to actually kind of grow it. We kind of it's been kind of been a thing we did on Mondays, and now we're trying to grow it and get it better. So that's what we want to do with you guys. So, any input you guys have, any feedback you guys have is greatly appreciated. As we kind of try to figure out the best way to distribute it to you guys and grow it. A lot of that, will come from you guys, and what you guys tell us you like and don't like. So we'll still, I think, thinking out loud here, probably still will put, the video file on YouTube, to get the content up, or at least maybe a condensed version, or maybe our best segment like we used to do, a little bit more edited. But yeah, it'll be Memory Lane on there, as well. So if you guys haven't checked it out, Memory Lane, which was about the Pacers. If you need some uplifting Pacers content tonight, check out the first episode of Memory Lane. That was a good one. Ben, who's a new addition to our team, Ben Bowsman, he and I went back and watched the 1995 Eastern Conference Finals, semifinals game 1 between the Knicks and the Pacers. That's the famous 8 points, 9 seconds game. So it was fun kind of watching the end of that because you only see kind of the highlight. You don't see what really led to that, which was essentially, the Pacers kind of looked dead in the water, and it was a situation where, the season prior, they had lost to the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, and so you kind of think, oh, well, here we go again. And instead, Reggie Miller, a man before his time as far as his play style and where we are in the NBA now, he takes the bull by the horns and gets it done. So, so that's fun. So if you want to go check that out, as the lead is now swelled for the Heat, it's up to 22 points now. So it's looking rough for the Pacers, and you hate to see it, but again, it's losses like these happen. I think obviously the Pacers showed flashes tonight. This game is a lot more palatable knowing that you're okay, we're 4-2 now in the bubble. We're still got a winning record. We can still finish these seeding games with a winning record. We're not super worried about it. Like, if they come out and they're flat against the Rockets and lose by 20, if they end the season on, like, back-to-back-to-back double-digit losses, twice to the Heat, who they're probably going to play in the first round, and, to the Rockets, then that's when you can kind of worry. But tonight has been the anomaly, which has been a little bit unexpected for what we thought we were going to see. So if you guys, those of you out in the chat, I appreciate you guys watching. If you've got any input on the game, feel free to type it on in there. And if you're watching, the VOD, also, thank you guys for tuning in. This has by far been our most successful live stream. So I think that says a lot. So I appreciate that. Free throws have been another bugaboo for the Pacers tonight. It's just kind of all tumbled downhill. I do kind of want to... I'm going to test something out while I've got y'all here. So, if I do this... Well, actually, never mind. I'm not going to do it. So, as you've noticed, the video has been choppy, and we're trying to work on that. I think I've got a little bit more of a plan. And that's the rough thing about doing live streams, is that you don't know how issues, especially if you're not an IT person, like I definitely am not, as the Pacers enter the final 2 minutes of the fourth quarter down by 18 points, 107-89. That's one of the things that now is a 3 is hit, so now it's 110-89. Now it's back up to 21. That's one thing that's been rough, is that you don't know what needs to be fixed until you're already live. So then you have to kind of go live and then hope that what, kind of just have to hope that it all works out, and keep tweaking it. So it's like almost a weekly basis of being like, okay, I think I've got a fix for the podcast. Let's see if we can get it, on the right track. And then, it, like, this stream is better than how the first stream went, but, still got some things to work out and that kind of thing. Closing in on the final minute of play here. Gonna kind of just watch this one go into the record books here. As it's now up to 22 points, 114-92 with 45 seconds to go. As I'm getting the notice on my phone that there's not too much difference between now and the final score. So I just got the final score. I guess if I'm going off, it doesn't really matter too much if I make that the final score. But yeah, Jimmy Butler, 19 points on the night. He had a great night. 3:30 Eastern time for the game on Wednesday with the Rockets, so that'll be interesting. An earlier start. That's another thing I've liked about the bubble as well, is that games have started. Like, that's what it gives me. I swear, it gives me a NCAA tournament vibe. We didn't get the NCAA tournament this year. So it gives me those vibes of like, hey, it's a neutral site. Games can start anytime. And, there you go. So with that, the game has concluded 114-92 Heat win. Kind of the quick takeaways here before I sign off are, obviously the game didn't go as well as you planned. Obviously if you're a Pacers fan, even if you thought, hey, maybe they're going to lose tonight, you still didn't think it was going to be by as much, but it's also a game where the starters kind of struggled. It's the first time they've really struggled the entire bubble, so there's some good things and some bad things where, it's a game that kind of, sticks in your mind as, hey, if this happens again, then we're worried, but for now, we're not worried, and that's kind of the thing I would take away is the fact that, the starters played poorly, the bench could only carry the team for so long, and then they couldn't hit free throws, and they just played sloppy basketball, and that's going to happen sometimes. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do against the Rockets. Again, reminder, you can follow us at Crash Course FM on Twitter, Crash Course Podcast on Facebook, and remember, anchor.fm/Crash Course is where you can find the podcast. Also, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts can be heard, you can hear the Crash Course Podcast. So thank you guys all for tuning in. There will be a new Memory Lane coming out on Friday, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And of course, next week, B. Scott and I will be back to talk about the Indy 500, talk about the NBA playoffs. You won't want to miss it. It's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you guys all for tuning in to this week's edition of the podcast, which was a very different experience. 2.5 hours. We watched a basketball game and brought it to you. Thank you guys, everybody who watched and talked in the chat and things like that. So thank you guys all for tuning in, and I will see you guys next week. B. Scott and I will talk to you next week about the NBA playoffs. See you later.